Let me ask you a question.
Ask me anything.
Are you struggling with keeping your morning blood sugar under control?
Obviously I am.
Does it seem like no matter what you do, no matter what you eat the night before, your blood sugar is always super high when you wake up in the morning?
Yeah, basically.
Well, I've been a type 1 diabetic for over 20 years, and I have to say that over the years, I've had my fair share of waking up with extremely high blood sugars. And the first few years were really difficult. I mean, they were really tough. And with all the information out there about diabetes and how to control your blood sugar, it felt like getting my morning blood sugar under control was going to be a puzzle that I wasn't going to be able to solve, but I didn't give up. I kept researching, I kept learning, and most importantly, I continued to apply the things that I learned, and I came up with a lot of good tips over the years that I'll probably share in other videos, but I wanted to give you the one tip today that has made the biggest impact in helping me to lower my morning blood sugars. There was a time when I was waking up with my blood sugar well over 200, and still to this day, I still do wake up from time to time with my blood sugars well over 200 when I don't do the thing that I'm going to talk about in today's video. But it made sense because I was eating foods that you would think and normally raise your blood sugar super high. So it made sense when I was waking up with high blood sugars, when I was eating foods that I knew would raise my blood sugar before I went to bed. However, it didn't make sense when I was eating foods that you would normally think would not raise your blood sugar, and these foods normally didn't raise my blood sugar that much throughout the course of the day, but these foods were still raising my blood sugar super high, giving me that really high morning wake up blood sugar. For example, if I ate, let's say, a hamburger patty with some veggies, no bun, just a hamburger patty with some veggies, and I ate that for lunch, I might see a 30 to 50 point increase in my blood sugar. However, if I ate that same hamburger patty right before bed with the veggies, no bun, I would sometimes notice an increase of 100 to 150 points, and sometimes even 200 points.
Damn, bro.
So one day, by accident, I figured out what the problem was, and I figured out how to lower my morning blood sugars. So have you ever come home from work so tired that you didn't want to do anything, you didn't even want to eat? Well, I had a day just like this probably about 15 years ago. And I remember this day vividly because it was one of the only days in my coaching career up to that point. It was one of the only days in my coaching career where I had every single one of my appointments show up that day. Now, rarely does that ever happen. The more appointments you have, the more appointments probably won't show up. So if I have 10 or 12 appointments in one day, you can be guaranteed that a few of them are going to cancel. Well, this was a day where I had 15 hours of training back to back to back. I had 15 clients, I had 15 hours of training, and every single client showed up that day. So I had 15 hours of training back to back with no breaks.
That's ridiculous.
And actually, I was so tired that day that one of my clients actually caught me dozing off during one of her sessions. And I didn't think that I could actually sleep standing up, but she caught me and she still teases me to this day about it. But anyway, I had gotten home that night and I had realized that I only ate twice that day. And it's normally not like me to only have 2 meals in a day. But I had only eaten twice that day, and for the most part, my blood sugar was really good most of the day, but I was so tired that I didn't even want to eat anything. I didn't want to take a shower. I just wanted to go to sleep. And actually what ended up happening was I took a 30-minute nap in the car before I drove home just to avoid falling asleep while I was driving. When I got home, I walked in the door, I took off my sneakers, I walked upstairs, and I got in the bed. And no, I didn't take a shower because, like I said, I was too tired to even do that.
You definitely need a shower.
And that night, I had the absolute best sleep of my life up till that point. And when I checked my blood sugar in the morning, my blood sugar was 99.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, this was way back in the day before these CGM wearable devices that check your blood sugar was a thing. And if you're still checking your blood sugar by finger stick and finger pricks, comment below and let me know why. But anyway, this was back in those days when you had to prick your finger, collect the blood, put it on the test strip. So I checked my blood sugar, it was 99. Then I said, okay, this can't be right. There's no way. It's been years since I've woken up with my blood sugar that low. So I checked it again. And the second time I checked it, it was 101. So I said, wait a minute, I said 3 times the charm. Let me check it again. I checked it one more time and it was 97 again. So I was completely shocked because this was the first time in years that I had woken up to my blood sugar being normal. Now again, this was the first time, and I can't remember how long, that I had woken up and my blood sugar was normal. So I said to myself, well, maybe it was the fact that I only ate 2 meals yesterday that was the reason why my blood sugar was so low when I woke up. So I said to myself, I'm gonna make sure that I eat my normal 3 meals and my 1 snack, and I'm gonna see what happens. So that's exactly what I did. I had my normal 3 meals and I had my 1 afternoon snack, and the next morning I woke up and my blood sugar was 114. Now this was 2 days in a row where I woke up and my blood sugar was normal. And I know that 2 days is a small sample size, but it led me to believe that it had to be something else, because it couldn't be the fact that I only ate 2 meals 2 days prior, because that next day I had eaten my normal 3 meals and 1 snack and I still woke up and my blood sugar was normal. So it led me to believe that it couldn't have been that, but I also had no idea what it was. But then it hit me. And I realized that there was one other difference between those 2 days and the hundreds of other days that came before them, where I was waking up with my blood sugar well over 200. And that one difference was I wasn't eating right before bed. You see, prior to these 2 days, I was eating my last meal somewhere around 9 to 10 p.m., which at that time was about 1 to 2 hours before I went to bed. And again, it did not matter what I ate. I could eat a bowl of lettuce before bed and I would still wake up with my blood sugar super high. Whereas with these 2 days, I was eating my last meal about 5 to 6 p.m., which was somewhere around 4 to 5 hours before bed. So I said to myself, the only way I'm gonna prove this theory true or false is to go back to eating my normal 1 to 2 hours before bed and see what happens. Now, to be honest with you, I really didn't want to do it, because this was the first time, and I can't remember how many years, where I had 2 days in a row where I was waking up with perfect blood sugars. But not only that, I was also getting the most amazing, and I'm not exaggerating, the most amazing sleep of my life. So I really didn't want to go back, because I had a feeling that not eating too late or not eating as late as I was eating was the reason why I was waking up with those lower blood sugar numbers. But I needed the proof to prove that that was the reason why. So that night, about an hour before bed, I had a cheeseburger with no bun and I had 2 cups of mixed vegetables. And the next morning, I woke up feeling completely like shit. Excuse my language.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
But I felt like crap, and my blood sugar was 231. And at that moment, I was convinced that it was the fact that I was eating too late or too close to my bedtime that was causing my blood sugar to be super high in the morning. And to this day, whenever I eat really late, whenever I eat within an hour, 2, even 3 hours before my bedtime, I always wake up and my blood sugar is super high. And when I do the opposite, when I give about a 5-hour window in between my last meal and my bedtime, I always wake up and my blood sugar is normal. So I'm not gonna make this video any longer than it needs to be, but if you're waking up with super high blood sugars and you're eating within 1 to 3 hours before you go to bed, I would definitely give this a try. Now, if you're used to eating late or you're used to eating right before bed, this one can be tough to turn into a habit, because it was definitely tough for me. But the one thing I realized was that late at night, I wasn't really hungry and I was eating more out of habit than anything. Now, that realization didn't necessarily make it easier for me not to eat before bed. But what it did do is it gave me the confidence in knowing that eventually I could turn it into a habit, because after all, my health depended on it, and so does yours. So if you're gonna give this a try, but you know it's gonna be tough, here's a few things you can do to make it a little easier. And hey, if you've made it to this point in the video and you don't know who I am, my name is Coach William, and I'm a personal trainer, a weight loss coach, and a type 1 diabetic. And over the last 20 plus years, I've been helping people just like yourself that are suffering with diabetes to help them learn how to control their blood sugar. So if you need help on your diabetic journey to learn how to control your blood sugar and become a healthier diabetic, I want you to click the first link below in the description, fill out the form, and let's figure out what we need to do to get you from where you're at to where you want to be with your diabetes. So one of the things I noticed, and I still notice to this day, is that whenever I don't get a good night's sleep, my cravings the next day are higher and they're much harder to control. And you probably noticed this as well. And obviously, if you're experiencing really bad cravings, it's gonna be difficult for you not to eat late and not eat before bed. So do whatever you can to make sure that you get a good night's sleep, because it's definitely gonna help. So figure out whatever's stopping you from getting a good night's sleep and work on fixing those things, because remember, your health depends on it. Now, another thing I notice is whenever I skip a meal or whenever I skip meals, I'm always hungrier at night, and the opposite happens when I don't skip meals. So if you're noticing this as well, the answer is simple. Stop skipping meals. Make sure you're eating all your meals throughout the day so it makes it easier for you not to eat at night. So I gave this next tip to one of my diabetic clients who had an A1C of 12 and she desperately wanted to lower it. So if you're a diabetic, you probably already know what A1C is, but if you're watching this video for someone who is a diabetic and you just want to educate yourself more, definitely make sure you share this video with them, share this information with them. But if you just want to educate yourself more, and knowing what A1C is probably going to be a valuable thing for you. So your A1C is your average blood sugar over a 3-month period of time. Now, an A1C of 12 means that my client's average daily blood sugar was somewhere around 298, which is super high. And again, my client was desperate to get her numbers down. So we created a 3-month or 90-day plan to get her blood sugars normal. And that plan started with the tip that I'm sharing in today's video. But my client noticed that having a 5-hour window from her last meal to her bedtime was super hard. So what we did is we went from making a 5-hour window to just a 2-hour window. So she went from eating an hour before bed to eating 2 hours before bed, or having her last meal within 2 hours before bed. And she noticed that this was much easier for her to do. Now, going from 1 hour to 2 hours before bed didn't really make a big difference in her numbers, and I didn't think it was gonna make a big difference. But as they say, slow and steady wins the race. And this was more about, or doing it this way, was more about making this as easy as possible for my client to turn it into a habit. Now, we did that for about 1 week, and we kept doing that. Every week we would add 30 minutes onto it, and my client noticed her first real significant drop in her blood sugar by around week 4. By the first day in week 4, my client noticed a 100-point drop in her blood sugar. Now again, 100 points is still far away from where we wanted it to be or needed it to be. However, that was a pretty significant drop in only 4 weeks. And by week 7, my client noticed an additional 45-point drop in her wake-up blood sugars. So by week 7, my client had gone all the way from an average wake-up blood sugar of about 300 all the way down to 155. Now again, still not where we wanted it to be, but what would it mean to you if you could wake up with your blood sugars 145 points lower than where they are right now? Well, this is what's possible when you stop eating before bed, or when you stop eating really close to your bedtime. But like my client, it might be difficult for you to go from eating right before bed to having a 5-hour gap in between your last meal and your bedtime. So do exactly what I did with my client. And you know what? 5 hours is just my general rule of thumb. But 5 hours isn't necessary for everyone, and 5 hours might not be necessary for you. And who knows, your sweet spot might be 3 hours. But the only way you're gonna know is by giving this experiment a try. And here's what I can tell you. I can tell you that your blood sugar will be better. I don't know how much better, but I can tell you that your numbers will be better by giving this a try. And another thing I can tell you is that your blood sugars won't be worse. So you lose nothing by giving this a try. The only thing you do lose is a few points in lowering your blood sugar, which is a great thing. And again, your health depends on it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to save this video. I want you to give this a try for a few weeks. And then I want you to come back to this video and I want you to comment your success. And your success, your comment, might inspire someone just like yourself to give this a try.